Welcome to Ann Arbor Democracy, a place for conversation about how our local leaders are elected and how political decisions are made, what this looked like in the past and what it looks like now. This project aims to explore the recent history and current reality of Ann Arbor democracy. In the 1970s, a third political party participated in local Ann Arbor elections. The Human Rights Party, or HRP, was fueled by student activism around the Vietnam War, the labor movement, tenants' rights, and the legalization of marijuana. In local elections, the HRP fielded candidates across the city, urging Ann Arbor voters to consider an alternative to Republicans and Democrats. In 1972, the HRP elected two members to Ann Arbor City Council, Jerry DeGreek from Ward 1 and Nancy Wexler from Ward 2. In 1974, the HRP won a single seat on Ann Arbor City Council, Kathy Kozachenko from Ward 2. The winning campaigns of DeGreek, Wexler, and Kozachenko were exceptional. In most elections, the HRP was less successful. In 1973, HRP candidate Phil Carroll ran for City Council in Ward 4. He campaigned against Democrat Ethel Lewis and Republican Richard Hadler. Also in 1973, HRP candidate Benita Kamowitz ran for mayor against Democrat Franz Magdis and Republican James Stevenson. In both of these races, the HRP candidates lost and Republicans won. The HRP was seen as splitting the vote in 1973 and causing a new Republican majority on City Council. What follows is part one of a conversation I had with Phil Carroll in February 2024. I'm really excited that you agreed to talk to me today. You want to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Phil Carroll. I've been here in Ann Arbor for about 65 years. Came as a graduate student and never left. I've been a leftist all my life, starting in high school. I remember one teacher encouraged me and went down to the library and found out about socialism, and there I was. I may have voted for a couple of Democrats who were really progressive a few times, but basically I'm waiting for people like on the Green Party or any place else that may be invite me to vote for them. I found out about the beginnings of a new radical party here in Michigan. The former chair of the Democratic State Committee resigned and started a new party called the Human Rights Party. And his name was Zoltan Ferenczi. Did you know about that?
I've come across his name. Now, was the starting point the HRP or was it the RIP?
Their name was HRP.
Okay, so
right
Zoltan, his was HRP. Okay.
Yeah. So we had our first meeting in December of 1970 and decided to proceed. And it was either at that meeting or the one in January where we decided to call ourselves the RIP, Radical Independent Party. But we knew about the HRP in Lansing, but we hadn't found out a lot about them yet. So, that came a little bit later. In fact, for the elections there, then in the spring of 71, there was a school board election and, at that time, the city elections were in April instead of in November, which they are now. We decided we didn't need a name. We knew we didn't have ballot status. We went to the city to find out if we couldn't get on, and there was no way we could be on the ballot. But we ran a teenager for the school board, knowing, of course, that she would have to be write-in votes.
Was that Sonia Yako?
Yes. Yeah.
She was with Youth Liberation. Or affiliated with that.
Probably.
Yeah.
Keith Hefner was an activist there in youth liberation and still is in New York City. Amazing, yeah. His father, Bob Hefner, was in our HRP. Bob Hefner ran in April of 71 under the RIP name, but we weren't on the ballot, so it was a write-in kind of campaign. After that, our big effort was petitioning, and that was fun. I really enjoyed petitioning. People were excited to know about something new, even if they weren't really enthused about it themselves. They were strong Democrats, for example. They were leery, but they wanted to know, so we got to talk to a lot of people. That was great. Of course, at that time, we weren't ready to run for anything in November. So there was school board and city council candidates there in the spring of 71. In 72 was when we had gotten ballot status and when we won 2 seats on city council, first ward and second ward, which were pretty much student populations.
And that was Jerry and Nancy.
Yeah, Jerry DeGreek, Nancy Wexler.
Now, I found a couple of articles from the time frame you just described where HRP was literally meeting with Jerry Lax, the city attorney, Bob Harris, the mayor, talking about ballot status.
Jerry is a great guy. I see him every once in a while around town. Yeah. And Bob Harris was the mayor.
But you were clearly like outsiders trying to break in. How difficult was it for you to connect with Jerry and connect with Bob and have these conversations about how students want to vote?
It seemed easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, I was surprised but enthused and really happy about that. Yeah, but I mean, they couldn't just give us ballot status. So we did our petitioning there in the summer of 71, and this was a statewide effort. And, you know, that means you've got to have a certain number of petition signatures from a large number of counties, 83 counties in Michigan. So we really worked hard at that and got the sufficient number. I'm not sure what the number was, 17,000 maybe, at least. Which did get us, well, the key thing is, did we get that number in time for that November? And we did. So we were able to have a candidacy then. It wasn't until 72 that we had winning candidates, Jerry and Nancy.
At that point, what position did you have in the HRP?
Well, I was on the steering committee a couple of times during that period, but I don't really remember during that campaign whether I was on the committee or not. But I was active. I was a petitioner. I did a lot of petitioning and went to every meeting.
Now, Colleen McGee, I asked her how come she was a young person and not as far left as the HRP, and she talked about these meetings of the HRP that just ran late into the night because everybody had to find consensus. And I'm curious to hear your take on it. She was a bit disparaging of this process. She made it sound like it was very tedious. Do you have any memories of those meetings?
It could have been tedious. It could have been. It was not unfriendly.
Okay, right, yeah.
No, but yeah, people went into lots of details about why we should do this and why we should do that, and it helped us to realize that we were very democratic. So we were more democratic than the Democrats.
So then in 1973, you were a candidate, a primary in Ward 4 with Kathy Kozachenko.
Oh, right. And they were getting ready, the little caucus were ready to nominate Kathy for that ward candidacy. But I didn't know about it. I wasn't a member of that caucus. So I decided I would do it. After all, I mean, I felt we should have candidates in every ward. Previously, we didn't have, the first year we ran, we didn't have candidates in every ward. So I got on it, and this was a surprise to the caucus. And you know what they did? they said, okay, Kathy's going to withdraw.
Was she on the ballot? Or had she withdrawn?
It may be that it was too late to keep her name off the ballot,
Oh, okay.
but I know it was well known
Mm-hmm.
that she was withdrawing. If that hadn't been explained to the public, she would have won, because she was better known.
In that 73 election on city council, you were in opposition to Ethel Lewis. She was the Democrat.
Right.
And Richard Hadler was the Republican. And you were saying that you were friends with Ethel Potts.
Sure.
Well, now, when the latter years of her life, she was known as Eppie Potts. But before she was Ethel Lewis, and you were friends?
Yeah, we had both been active in the Burns Park Community Committee or whatever it was. We would lobby with city council on various things. So that's how I got to know Eppie. We were both active on city issues.
What did your campaign look like in Ward 4? How much support did you have from the HRP? What did the organizational structure look like for a campaign?
Well, the Central Committee sort of organized everything for all the candidates, and then the candidates could influence what their committees would do for them. So I, in a way, was able to just sit back and let them do all the organizing, the flyers, some of which I don't even recall seeing them. My job, and I guess this was true in a lot of the wards, was to go out door to door. And that was really enjoyable. That was a terrific experience to do that. Door to door campaigning. And then there was door to door petitioning also, which we did for a couple of different issues, rent control in particular. And as a candidate, I wasn't excused from doing my share of petitioning for those amendments to the city council, city charter, rent control, and preferential voting.
So, 1973 election, you peeled off enough votes from Ethel Lewis, the Democratic candidate, that the Republican won.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't great. Stevenson got elected. And so HRP was accused of basically wrecking things for the Democrats and sort of running us backwards. You didn't make us more progressive as a town. You made our government more conservative, which wasn't the intent.
No, it wasn't the intent, but it had to be done.
And what kind of conversations were happening behind the scenes among HRP folks after the elections of 73? I mean, surely it was a disappointment. You had to have felt a little bit more connection to Democrats, or maybe not. It had to be done. So what was the take in the wake of those elections?
We did exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted the Democrats to feel the pain so they would eventually come around and support some of the things that we wanted to do. One step back and two steps forward, if you will.
Did it work out the way you think?
Not really. No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, I mean, these are conversations we have now, I think, about the dangers of a third party in pulling things backwards before, like you say, potentially having influence on the major party.
Mm-hmm.
In 1974, you ran for Congress? Maybe you can tell me about that?
Yeah. Well, that was fun, too, because I went into the Detroit suburbs a couple of times and exposed our philosophy to a much wider group. And that seemed to work. I didn't get many votes, maybe 2,000 or so out of a big congressional district. But I do think that we subsequently had other people run for Congress in subsequent years. Yeah, it was worth doing.
Well, and you had an extra obstacle because you were employed by the university and you were fighting policies that they had around whether their employees were allowed to run for elected office. Or talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, we were already running for city positions. Maybe we didn't even know about this rule. But nothing was said, I don't think, to us that, you've got to resign or take a leave, maybe, from the university. I do remember going to a regents meeting one time and telling them that the rules say that I would have to resign or take a leave, and I didn't want to do that. So I want you to change these rules. And the regents didn't have any response at that meeting, nor subsequently. So I ran anyway, and nothing was done. So it really was pretty hypocritical of them, I think.
You were working for the Highway Safety Research Institute.
Right, which is a university, or was a university organization.
And you charged that you were being harassed in this job because you had impeach Nixon stickers on your door.
Oh, wow, yes. Oh, uh-huh. Yeah.
What was going on there?
Someone else had some kind of sticker on their window. Maybe it wasn't political, but I just happened to have one of these impeach Nixon stickers and decided to put it on my window. And it was peeled off probably by the janitors in the evening, and they were instructed to do so, I suppose. And so I put one back up again. I think I did this 3 times.
You really wanted to impeach Nixon.
Well, they wanted me to go at that point, but I think I did resign soon thereafter.
When you were running for Congress, you said, the HRP consistently supports the movements to end racism, sexism, ageism, and class discrimination. And you were running on ending militarism and imperialism. The issues that the HRP stood for, how do you think they resonate now?
Well, I still believe all those things strongly, if not even more so than then.
In part 2, Phil talks more about how the HRP supported their elected members of council and how he reacted when his campaign for Congress did not get fair treatment from a local radio station. Like and subscribe if you would like to be alerted to more content like this.